Hi everyone. Hi. Good evening. Great. Okay, I think we are live. Okay, so thank you for tuning in tonight. Okay, if you can hear me, okay, I hope that you can have some responses. Okay, help me to comment in comments that we are live. Yep. Hi. Hi, Keen. Thank you for tuning in. Okay. Today we have a special topic. Okay. Well, we just want to get straight into that topic, and this topic is a very interesting topic. Okay, it's about the psychology of workers. Okay, and of staff, employees. Okay, like you and I. Okay. And our psychology health. All right. Okay. So let me just put on my PowerPoint. Yep. Great. Okay. Today's topic was on psychology insights from the pandemic, and then we have a special guest that is with us, and I hope that you can gain insights from this special uh, episode or show from us. All right. Okay. So right now, I just want to invite, okay, Dr. Adrian Low to come on stage with us. Hi, Doctor.
Hey, David. Thanks
Yes.
for
Can you
having
hear
me.
me good?
Yep, it's loud and clear.
Great, man. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
You're
And
welcome.
I believe that you have a lot to share with us. Okay,
Yeah,
and I
definitely.
think the audience will also would like to hear from you. Okay, I mean before you go on, you, I mean you are a trained doctor. Okay, and I've known you for like how many years? 20 or more?
I
Correct or not?
guess so.
I guess so.
Approximately 20 years, yeah.
Yeah, time flies.
That's
But
right.
I feel that you have not changed at all. I mean, you
Oh,
still look
really?
very, very young.
Thanks for your
Yeah,
compliments.
yeah, yeah. You can look at you further. I see. Wow. Okay, and I think I think you look younger, than I know you
Oh,
every
really?
time.
Maybe
Yeah,
thanks to your technology, right? It puts on the
thank you.
virtual makeup for me.
Serious. No, but I think it's because you also do a lot of sports, right? Before, are
Ah,
you still doing
yes.
sports now?
Yeah, I try to keep myself doing some running. I just did my morning run today.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. So we have some friends here. I can see Keen, I can see Maya, I can see
I
Royman
can.
with us.
Hello,
Yeah.
old
Yeah, and
friends, huh?
and I see that there are more coming in. So yeah, I see Eddie watching us. Okay. So if you are here, welcome. Okay, we have Dr. Adrian Low here with us. Okay, and he's going to share with us about the psychological insights from the pandemic. Okay, so Doctor, are you ready? I'm going to put up your slides. All right.
Sure.
All right, man. Let's go.
All right.
Here you go. Yep.
Yep. Okay. So, hi everybody. Good morning. Good evening. Wherever you're coming from, whether Hong Kong, Singapore, or around the world. Yeah, I want to share with you guys some of the psychological insights from the pandemic. Now, what happened was during the pandemic that started out from China and even Hong Kong, we experienced that. So, me and my friend actually came up with what we call a psychological mask. All right, psychological mask, and we've created. Six possible scenarios that might happen during the pandemic. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the six situations with you guys and what are the symptoms that these people within these situations would experience and what are the recommendations for these people. But at the same time, we can also draw out the wisdom, from these six situations and how we can apply them, even if it's post-pandemic, even when things are getting more in control in parts of our world. All right. So now, first of all, I think during the pandemic, what we can observe is that most people are experiencing some form of panic and fear and even anxiety. And in order to combat this, the very first step is we actually have to be aware of such situations. So awareness is, I think, is the first reaction that we have to prepare ourselves, and so that after that we can then have the motivation to make changes, whether it's in our thoughts, our behavior, and our feelings. So the first thing is we need to acknowledge that we are all struggling with fear, right? And not to ignore or avoid such situations, because most people, they try to uh, have some form of avoidance and not going heads on with the crisis, right? So when people are like struggling with fear and anxiety and panic, what happened, right? People rush to the supermarket, they buy lots of obviously the basic stuff, but they buy it in like an overwhelming amount of quantity, right? So as a result, what happened? Other people may not have enough things to to buy, and that in psychological perspective is known as OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, right? We keep hoarding things, right? Hoarding is actually a form of psychological disorder, right? So this is also a way that how anxiety and panic manifests itself, when in the form of we keep buying things that is like in an overwhelming kind of fashion, right? So I think so the first step is we have to be aware and increase our sensitivity that we are all in this together, right? And it's definitely going to interfere with our daily functioning. Okay, so if this is you, and if you're still having such form of anxiety or panic attack, and you can see yourself keep buying things, storing up, in excessive measurement, I would highly recommend you to quickly seek professional consultations, whether to a counselor, to a psychologist, or even to a psychiatrist. All right, so that is the first thing you might want to address. Other than that, let's have a look at some of the possible scenarios that happen, during the pandemic. Now, in the first situation is that this person doesn't belong to any medical profession, and neither he or she or his or her family or friends are being infected with the coronavirus. However, the epidemic or pandemic has been affecting this person's moods. So in a way, this person will be feeling unhappy, and sometimes they get bored, for no reason, or they might be affected by negative news or the media, where they go on Facebook, because when you go to Facebook, you see all the messages that's so negative, and especially in Hong Kong, in Hong Kong before the pandemic, there was the social unrest. So every time we go into Facebook, we see messages about whether you're the yellow or blue kind of thing, right? I'm not trying to get political here, but so all these news is actually affecting a person's emotions, their thoughts, and behaviors a lot. And very easily, the person can get very angry, very frustrated, and can even go into conflicts with other people. So whether at home or in the family, so there are actually people get into conflicts, and the worst case is they even go on divorces, in a household environment. And in the workplace environment, it will be more conflict between co-workers, with the boss, even with clients, right? um, and the thing is that if the person is not regulating the situation properly, uh, the situation will just gets more and more severe, and they might even go to extent where the person is not interested to do anything, right? And in psychological aspect, is what we call depression, mild depression symptoms. And mild depression symptom will be things like a person has disinterest in doing things, afraid to take risks, and just don't want to meet anyone, right? And getting a lot of worry, worry about the future, worry about being infected with the virus, um, and it will, become a hindrance to the sleep quality as well. So things like insomnia, or the heart racing very fast, and even to a chance of getting high blood pressure. So so I think for this situation, how if this is you, right? So a way to rectify this is to rely more on our left brain, because we have a brain, right? So brain, we have left brain and right brain, and the right brain is more about the emotions. So when we are living with fear, with anxiety, and with panic, we are actually relying a lot on our right brain. So if this is you, we have to try to utilize more our left brain, and the left brain is more about the logic, right? So how do we do it? The logic is to probably do more fact check, So when we see a news or something, right, we can, probably not to believe in it uh, so much initially, and we can do a little more fact check before we really believe into anything, right? So I think one of the wisdom or insight we can draw out from situation number one, even when it's post COVID, is to protect our mind from negativity. All right. Now, research has shown this that the first 5 minutes, the moment we wake up every morning, the first 5 minutes, what we feed our mind will dictate how we're going to spend for the rest of the day. All right. So let me say
Okay.
this again. uh, yes, you hear that? Yep. So the first step is that when we wake up in the morning, the first 5 minutes is so important. It's so important. How we feed our mind for first 5 minutes will dictate how the rest of the days will be like. All right. So some people, when they wake up, the first thing they do is turn on the television. So what
Negativity.
they see is negativity, news, bad news, right? And it's going to affect how they behave and think for the rest of the day, right? But on the other hand, if you feed your mind positivity, so what kind of positivity can we feed our mind with? So if people who are religious or spiritual, you might, look at Bible verses or do some meditation, right? Or maybe read some self-help books or something that's positive, so the first 5 minutes is going to help you, to live how the rest of the day. All right, and you can also influence other people, with your positive mindset. So that's the situation one and principle one. Okay,
So
so
this has
let's
to be
move.
done
Yeah,
every, I mean, regularly, every day. How long do you need to do that
definitely.
actually?
Definitely, because every day we are living a new day, right? And
Yep.
and we have to, it's like a computer. Every time we the new day we turn on the computer, right? And so when we wake up, it's like we're turning on our human computer. So the first 5 minutes, how we feed our computer mind, right, is very important. That will dictate how we live the rest of the day.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Understood.
Situation number two. Yeah. Thanks for interacting with me, David. I love that. Okay. Situation number two. So we don't know is this. Some people, they are not affected by the virus, but their relative or friends have been infected. So infected as in they physically they have been infected with the virus, or they could be just coming from overseas, back to the local country, and they'll be quarantined for like 2 weeks. For me, I actually went to Shanghai during the period where Hong Kong was quite severe, and when I
Okay.
come back into Hong Kong, I was quarantined for 2 weeks. Right,
Wow.
so
Okay.
so, so just thinking about being quarantined for 2 weeks is so overwhelming, and you get shocked, you get overwhelmed, and we worry about, I mean, for in this case, we worry about our friends, we worry about relatives, we worry about their safety. And
Mm.
at the same time, for those who have been infected with the virus, I mean, for those who have been the relatives of friends who have been infected with virus, we are worried that we will catch the virus, from our close friends or
Mm.
our family members. So it's actually pretty contradictory as well, right?
Mm.
In one way, we are hoping that it will recover. On the other hand, we're also afraid that we'll contract the virus from them, right? So,
Mm.
so what are the emotions that in situation two that might manifest will be anger, or maybe even angry with our friends on Reddit. Why did you contract the virus? You must have done something wrong. We are being
Mm.
judgmental about the situation, right?
Mm. Mm.
So there's feelings of anger, feelings of denial. Why is this happening? It shouldn't be happening. And things
Correct.
like that, right? So what are the recommendations for those who are suffering from such situation? Is we have to understand and aware that excessive fear is not going to help the situation.
Mm.
Okay, excessive fear is not going to help. And 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 the fact that when we are having such emotions, so it's like a cup. So when we are fearful, it's like we're pouring the emotions in a cup. We have to empty the cup. Otherwise, the emotion will just keep stirring up to a point where it reach the limit, and it's going to explode.
Mm.
It's going to
Mm.
explode. All right.
Mm.
So we have to empty the cup. So how do we empty the emotional cup? Is to find someone or an outlet to release our emotions. And that can be done by expressing our emotions, by talking with other people, right? But obviously we have to ensure that the person we're talking to is comfortable to listen to what we want to tell them, right?
Mm.
Otherwise it'll become like a forceful kind of thing, and it's not gonna be nice, right? It will just make the matter worse, right? Or it's like going to pass the emotions to them. So that's why we as psychologists or counselor, we have our role to play. We get paid, to listen, to the frustrations or emotions of our clients. All right.
Okay.
So if
Yeah.
if that's you again, and you have no one to talk to, please consult a professional counselor or psychologist or psychiatrist.
I think this one is also because right now many people are more worried about their jobs.
Yes.
I think that's worse compared to the virus itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
So.
so the so we can draw from the principle here is that we have to react appropriately with bad news, right? So the bad news could be so because in the pandemic at that time, the bad news was the friends and relatives and loved one being quarantined or contracted with the virus, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So if we draw this out for post-COVID, will be, as you say, the bad news could be people losing their jobs, people
mm,
seeing the businesses closing down because of what
mm,
has happened, right?
mm,
And we might get so afraid, so angry. Why is this happening, right? And
yep,
and and
yep.
that's and being so again, we apply the recommendation is that if we are being excessive fearful, it's not going to help the situation.
I think it's
So,
both sides, Adrian.
yep.
Um, for managers, right, when they see their staff that are going to be laid off, that's
Mm-hmm,
also a
mm-hmm.
kind of like bad
Yeah,
news on behalf.
yeah,
And I can actually feel that being a manager that you need to execute, the situation
that's
of
right.
laying off people. Wow, that
Yeah,
is also a very traumatic experience. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So for managers who are laying off people, because for me, I've been doing lots of teaching with the HR managers, and I teach them how to, lay off the staff without increasing the psychological fire.
How do you do
So
that?
now, how do you do that? Okay, in situation number 6, there will
Okay,
be some pointers or
okay.
recommendations. All right,
Mm-hmm.
so we leave the best for the last. Okay,
All right, man. All
uh,
right, man.
yeah, so to keep the audience, be waiting, for the last bit. And also, I don't know if the news that I'm going to share this psychological mask to you guys was dissipated to the audience. So
Mm-hmm.
if you guys are staying till the end, at the end of the session, I'll tell you guys where you can download the psychological mask. All right,
Yep, yep. So
and that
stay
would be
with us,
my
guys. Stay with us
yes.
to the end.
So that's my gift for you guys. All right, so we have to react appropriately with bad news. Otherwise, our emotional cup will be slowly being filled with the negative emotions, and we reach a point where it's going to explode. Right? Imagine a bomb when it explodes. What happened? Obviously, we ourselves will be injured, but and the people around us will also be affected as
Mm.
well. Okay, so that's situation number 2 and principle number 2. Situation number 3 is that we ourselves or I myself has been affected. Either I've been quarantined or I've been affected physically by the virus. So this group of people, we feel again, we feel shocked, worried, scared, and in living in denial. Why is this happening? Okay, or if we take this out of the picture, it could be a person who has been experiencing being laid off. Right, I've just been fired by a job. Right,
Mm,
and
mm,
you feel very very shocked, very worried, what's going to happen to me,
the
uh,
family.
or maybe feel guilty as well. Maybe I've
Mm-hmm.
done something wrong, I've done
Yep.
something wrong which caused this consequence to happen, and we feel sad. And the worst thing is they might even feel like giving up on themselves, and they're going to have a very negative worldview towards
Mm-hmm,
work,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
towards the colleagues or past workers, and even their current health status if they are being affected with the virus.
mm,
Okay, so how do we rectify the situation? So if this is you, so the first thing you have to do is to control your emotions as well, and trust that the medical staff is going to help you, because in the actual case, when we are being quarantined, we have to follow the government orders. We have to follow the orders that has been laid down by the medical professionals, right? So we have to, trust, okay, trust and hope for the best. All right. So if you've been laid off, we have to follow and trust that um, the situation is going to get better. All
Mm.
right. The government is also doing something about it. The government is
Right.
going to, give more opportunities, and open up more doors of opportunities to businesses that's affected. All right. So in Hong Kong, I don't know about Singapore. In Hong Kong, the government has been doing a lot of money pumping, to to the businesses, to people who are laid off and things like that. So everyone gets money. So
Yeah.
I don't know about Singapore. Is government doing anything about it?
Yeah, yeah. Government doing a lot of
Mm,
things now. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Actually,
that's good.
but what do you see if like there are also places where there are really no assistance at all? So is there anything that they can do? I mean, for people who are affected but really no help at all. I mean,
Okay,
yeah.
so it will be the same situation where a person who has been affected with the virus physically, and it seems like the situation gets worse, even to the extent of maybe losing their life,
Okay,
right?
okay. That's
So if
suicidal
that,
already.
huh?
That's
Yeah,
suicidal.
they might get suicidal. They might get suicidal, and so the recommendation for these guys will be, to prepare for the worst.
Mm,
So how to prepare for the worst is to really to reflect on our life. And I mean, this is for the really worst case situations for those who are affected with the virus. Because I'm not sure who will be watching this video. Maybe someone in the US now is watching this video,
mm-hmm,
and they are being affected with the virus, and they are you're already preparing for the worst, right?
mm-hmm,
So
mm.
I think how to prepare for the worst is to really reflect upon our life and to express what we want to say to our loved ones and to our friends,
So it's
right?
really a lot of about talking, about sharing to somebody else, right?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
and to really work on our unfinished businesses in our life,
Mm,
and reflect on what is the purpose of our life.
mm,
And sometimes, research has shown that when we reflect on what's the meaning and purpose of our life, or let me put it in a negative way, it's like how we prepare for our death. How we prepare for
mm.
death actually makes us live longer.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
Mm, mm,
So in a way, we trying to figure out what is our unfinished business. Is there anything else we want to, use the best of our remaining time? What exactly do you want to do,
mm,
right? And you'll be surprised. Maybe by doing this, you feel happier, and your stress
mm-hmm,
level decreases, and
mm-hmm.
you might recover. Just by
Okay,
doing this
okay.
exercise. So, but in a workplace standpoint, it's also about finding your ideal dream job,
Mm,
right? Knowing what's your passion in life, and then look for a job or starting a business that can resonate with your purpose of life, and that is going to be so
fulfilling.
powerful.
Mm, mm, mm.
Yes.
Okay, that I agree. Yep, yep, yep.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's good. That's very
So
good. Mm,
so
cool, cool.
so make use of the time really wisely and show the best of ourselves, um, in every situation, so that by doing this we have a sense of peace and calm during the pandemic. Okay. So the principle we can draw here for even for post-pandemic is reacting appropriately when we have negative experiences. Okay,
Mm,
reacting appropriately when we have negative experiences, to reflect on our life, reflect on our negative experiences, and to draw out what lessons that we might have learned during that situation, how we can improve. Okay, and it might be a blessing in this disguise, because I hear so many cases where people get fired and they actually found an even better job.
yeah, yeah. I think that's
And
true. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, they
Mm,
find even better job, and in a way they're being thankful and grateful that their previous job, the previous boss has fired them. Is like allow them to release. Maybe in their previous job they weren't fulfilled. It wasn't aligned with their personal passion, right?
mm,
So it actually gives them an opportunity to actually um, live their life with a fulfilled purpose in alignment with the job.
mm, 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 mm.
Does it make
That I
sense?
agree. I see a
Yeah.
lot of examples about this. I mean, people who has got retrenched and end up they
Mm-hmm.
came out and do their own business and they became better than than
That's
the
right.
original is. Yeah. So I think that's the part of the positive thinking
Yeah,
and really
exactly.
thinking ahead. Yeah. What's the things that you have not fulfilled and then
True.
you
That's
would
true.
like to do. Yeah. Okay, that's
Mm.
very good. Yep.
And these what we call testimonials, right? They can be shared to other people who are experiencing the same thing, right? And it's going to have a positive ripple effect.
Mm. Okay.
Okay, right. Situation number four. Situation number four is that the loved ones. So let's say I know someone in my family has actually died, unfortunately, due to the COVID, and therefore the COVID is affecting our mood. Okay, so this person feels shocked, sad, overwhelmed, and again living in denial because can't accept the fact that a family member has died, and again will lead to lots of blaming or even blaming ourselves. Maybe I'm the one who caused the death of this person. And feel pity, have very negative emotions, and usually they are having a really difficult time to express their negative emotions. So in this case, this is actually quite a severe case, and I would really, really urge, if that's you, if you know someone who has actually unfortunately died, during the pandemic, you have to, go for some grief therapy. Grief therapy. And what I've done is in this psychological mass, I've listed down the steps. So what you need to do is just go through the steps, and it's like you're going through the grief therapy already. Okay. um, because of time, I won't go through the steps of the grief therapy, right? But it's all stated in the psychological mass. All right. Now, how do we draw out the principle for this one? Is that we have to handle grief appropriately. We have to handle grief appropriately. So it doesn't really mean it doesn't necessarily mean that someone have to die, right, uh, in order to consider that a grief. But it could be, as you say, a laid off. Laid off can be, as the feeling might be as
Yeah. Yeah.
severe as someone has died, something like
Yeah.
that. So we have to handle the grief appropriately. And whether it's the firing manager, right? The manager who fired, who maybe he just received orders there to fire the staff, right? So he or she might feel really, really affected as well. And he or she also have to handle the grief appropriately. Okay, so just follow the steps of the grief therapy, and this person will be able to, look at the situation more positively and move on with their life. All right. Situation number five. Now, situation number five is this person is a medical professional. So a person who is working in a hospital environment. So imagine a nurse or a doctor in a hospital environment during the pandemic. So in the pandemic, the situation in the hospital is going to be so chaotic,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Uh, and you're already having a hard time. You have to wear the full gear, like even more than what is required, and you're working more than what is required in terms of the time. And imagine when they go off work, they leave the hospital, they are being ostracized by maybe their family members or their friends,
Yep.
or they're really afraid that maybe they might uh, infect other people as well. So in a way, this pandemic is affecting their mood. So if that's you, if you're working in a medical profession, so what I advise those medical workers is that they can actually maybe write down what are the stresses that they have, all right, in the workplace. Now for me, I can also share a little bit more because my doctoral research was on workplace stress. So
Okay.
what are the stresses in the workplace? And I have discovered at least 8 kinds of stresses.
Wow,
Eight
that's a
kinds.
lot.
That's a lot.
Every day.
Yes. Yes. Maybe you can name a few, see if it hits one of the 8. What are the kind of stresses you think in the workplace?
Competition among
Competition.
competition among colleagues.
Okay, so that is could be what you call the social kind of social relationships within the workplace,
Yep.
social
Yep.
stresses, right? Whether
Social
it's
stress.
your
Yep.
relationship with your boss, relationship with your coworkers, relationship with your clients. Okay, so these might have some form of stresses as well. What other stress you could think of? So you got one of them, yes. What else
Politics.
you could think of? Politics, wow.
Yeah.
So politics, I would say, is also could be under the social as well, because
Okay.
about relationships and things like that. But again, politics can be a reaction of all other kinds of stresses. So what are stresses we might have is the physical stresses. So physical, you could think of like carrying heavy objects, right? But nowadays it's not about carrying heavy things, but it's about maybe when you're traveling to work, especially in Hong Kong, you go on a we call it MTR. We are bombarded with so many people, right?
Yep.
The proximity with from one person to another people is causing so much of stress, so the physical distance within one another can kind of cause psychological stress as well. So that's physical. Again, in a workplace, it could be talk about the space. Is there enough space for ourselves?
Yeah, they have ready
um,
space, huh?
you have ready space. That's good. Unlimited hosting, huh?
Yeah.
Now, the second stressor is what we call task-related stresses. So sometimes the tasks will just keep piling up, and that might cause
Deadlines.
stress.
Deadlines,
That
huh?
so deadline is we call the time stresses, deadline stresses. So task is one thing, and deadline is another one.
Okay.
Scheduling stresses,
It's
and we
separate.
also
Okay.
yeah, it could be separate or it can be intertwined as well. We also have a role stresses because sometimes you have to play the role of a manager, you have to play the role of a supervisor, and when you go back home, you have to play the role of caregiver. So all these different roles, sometimes we are confused. When should we act in a certain way, right? So role is also one kind of
Actually,
stresses.
one of the things is public
Yeah,
speaking. Wow, that is
public
super
speaking.
stress.
mm
Super
mm
stress.
mm.
And what's that fall
Yeah,
under?
public speaking. Again, you're dealing with people, right? About relationships, right? So it could be you're dealing with clients, right? You have to do public speaking to your potential clients. So again, there's a relationship as well. The social stresses is part of the social stresses.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
what other stresses we have? We have the environment stresses. Environment, there's two kinds in the workplace. One is the air quality,
Wow.
the air
Okay.
quality, right? Or it could be the noise quality. Sometimes it's so
Okay.
loud, that you can't focus in your work. It's causing amount of stress. Or it could be new management, change your environment, change your management, and you're not easily adapted to the new way of management, right? And we also have what else? We have traumatic stresses. So maybe certain events might remind you of past traumatic events, okay? Or maybe a new episode that becomes traumatizing. So we have traumatic event as well. And finally, we have the final stressor that is ideal job stress. Maybe again, it also comes back to what is our passion. Maybe from childhood we have a childhood dream, like I want to be a pilot, for example. But now
Okay.
I'm not a pilot. I'm a train driver. so
Okay.
so
Okay.
that is causing me a stress, right?
It's
It's
like
it's not
expectation,
it's
is
not
it?
doing
You
what I
didn't live
really
up to the
wanted to do.
expectation.
Exactly. So these are the
Okay.
different kinds of stress. Maybe you can just get us started. To write down what is exactly the stressor that is distressing in our life. Okay, write it down, and maybe we can do some kind of subjective awareness. Like you can give a rating scale of 0 to 10. 10 is like super stress, 0 is
Okay.
no stress, and write down your
Okay.
rating score for each one of them. And if it's 4 and above, it's going to be like affecting your mood, your life a lot.
You
And
mean so? You mean you have four ticks out of the eight? That means
no, you
there's
can you can
something.
actually you can actually go through each and every one of them. So maybe, for example, you have a relationship stressor. Relationship with my boss really really bad. So you can give a
Yeah.
rating out of this. Is it like from 0 to 10? Maybe you give a
I
7.
see.
Okay.
Okay.
Maybe and the next one could be my ideal job, 0 to 10. How close is it to your personal life passion? Give a rating scale, right?
Okay.
And if it's more than 4, there's something you should do something about it. So 10 is the most stressful, and 0 is no stress.
Okay.
Okay.
What do you see?
So
I mean, do you see what is the most common issue, in the workplace
now, the
based
most
on your
common issue
experience?
in my research is a relational tension. Relational
Relational
tension.
tension. Okay,
Yes,
so that
relational
is
tension
not
is
social, right? It's different thing.
relational is also do with social because it's about your relationship with your boss, with your clients, and with your
Okay.
colleagues.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
why I'm so stressed now, right?
Uh-huh. Okay, we can have a private talk afterwards,
Hey, doctor, before you go on, maybe you can adjust your camera a little bit so
Sorry,
I can see.
is it much better
Yeah,
now?
yeah, okay, good.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Thanks,
Yeah,
thanks.
thanks for letting me know about this.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are the recommendation I have for these people would be, after work,
Mm-hmm.
do something that you really really like. So
Mm.
it could be the food that you like, right? Some people like eating chocolate, go for it, go for chocolate. But
Mm-hmm.
again, just because I'm also into nutrition and stuff, try not to eat the sugary kind of chocolate, right? That there are chocolates that's non-sugar, right? Like the
Okay.
dark chocolate. But it really depends. Some people they like chocolate, they don't really care whether it's sweet or not sweet, right? But if you like the sweetened kind of chocolate, just eat that, because that's going to help you with the mood, right?
Okay.
And again, try not to have it in excess, right?
Mm.
Um,
Then
and
give
or
other
if
stress.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
you
or
have
it could,
excess. Mm.
yeah, it would cause other side effects.
Yep.
So and another thing they could do is, maybe if they like to watch movies, they can go watch their favorite movies.
Mm-hmm.
And in Hong Kong, the cinemas are starting to open up. What
Mm-hmm.
about in Singapore? Are the
Not yet.
cinemas not yet?
Still a
Okay.
long way, I think.
So
Yep.
you can go for a Netflix
Yeah.
account.
Yeah,
These are
Netflix.
still free, right?
Yep. Not
or
free, it's paid lah.
or you have to pay for it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Mm.
Read a book. Some people they like reading. Just read a book,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
listen to a music that they like,
Okay.
or meet friends, that
Mm-hmm.
can share common interests.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
But you
and
can't really meet right now. Right now, I mean,
then
over here,
maybe meet
COVID.
on Zoom. Meet on Zoom.
Yeah, on
Some
Zoom.
people, they play the mahjong on Zoom, right? They have like
Really?
what, four
Okay.
cameras,
Wow, first time I heard about this.
and then they ask, which tile do you want to move? And I'll move it for you.
Okay, okay. Is it like the virtual or physical? I mean,
A
how?
virtual one, virtual. I mean,
Okay,
if they
okay,
can't meet, if they can't meet physically, they can play the virtual mahjong.
okay. Well, interesting this one.
I mean,
Yep,
you can be creative about it when you guys are still on a lockdown.
yep, yep, yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, another thing that you might also want to consider, and I would, um, and not many people actually suggest this, is sometimes you can cry.
Ah, okay.
Cry. Although cry to some people it might be a cultural thing, they might think cry is like a weakness, but actually psychologically it's going to help a lot, right?
Mm,
So maybe you can find a private place, just cry it out, and because when you find a private place, you won't have to be fearful that you'll be judged, right?
mm.
And don't have to tell anyone about
Yep,
it.
yep.
So sometimes just by crying, is going to help a lot.
What
It's going
about
to
a
help a lot.
situation where you totally am unable to cry?
Mm,
Then that's very serious, isn't it?
yes, yes,
Mm,
you're
mm.
not able to express it, right?
Okay.
It's like you have dig a hole and put all the
Yep.
stuff inside and cover it.
Mm, mm, mm,
So one way is we have to uncover them. By uncovering them, it allows you an outlet, to release. And
mm.
crying is a way to release, actually.
So suppose people who talk a lot, they shouldn't have any issues.
Now, it really depends what they talk. Sometimes they talk about things that are not related to their stresses,
Ah.
right? So it's not about whether they're talking. It's about what are they talking about. Are they
Mm-hmm.
are they expressing
Mm,
their
mm.
their distress?
Okay, okay.
Does it make sense?
Yeah. Yep,
Yeah.
yep. So expression can be any kind lah, not just
Yeah,
talking. It
expression
can be.
can be not just talking. Some people find an outlet by
Mm,
drawing things,
mm, mm.
right? By drawing things. And I think at one point of time, something that went viral was doing some kind of coloring, right? They can order some books that allow them, to color. They call it mindful drawing, mindful
Ah.
coloring. So that is actually an outlet for those who are not able to verbally express themselves.
Mm, 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 mm. This is something that my children learn in school. They have
Yeah.
mindful breathing. So when
Yes,
you have
mindful breathing.
if you are in some situation and
Mm.
you do not know how to handle, you can start to
Yes.
breathe.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit more about the breathing, actually, because when we are very afraid or fearful, anxiety, what happens is in our brain, there is one part of our brain called the amygdala. Have you heard of that before?
Okay.
Amygdala.
Nope, nope. Mm.
In Cantonese, it's called hang yan wat,
Ah,
amygdala.
okay.
So that is our emotional memory. So when we are faced with a situation like pandemic, the amygdala is highly aroused,
Mm-hmm.
and that's going to take over our entire brain faculty.
I
So
see.
how we think, how we behave will be relying on this part. So what you mentioned was breathing. So
Mm-hmm.
breathing allow the amygdala to calm down.
With more
Okay.
oxygen.
Yes, and also to train up our prefrontal cortex. That's this part of the brain. So what happens when our prefrontal cortex is being activated? We will make better and smarter decisions. We are able
Mm.
to weigh the pros and cons of different situations
And think
before we make.
logically.
Exactly, become
Okay.
more logical. So breathing is one way to enhance our prefrontal faculty or executive functions. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so I think that your school is your kids, the school that your kids are going are doing a really good job, to
Mm.
train up their breathing, yeah,
Mm, mm, mm.
and train
Okay,
up their
okay.
their faculty over here. Okay, so let's move on to situation oh, before that, principle
Yeah.
number five. So we have to exercise self-care and setting boundaries appropriately. Now, what do you mean by setting boundaries? So sometimes we really have to have rest time,
Mm.
right? While some people for those who are not setting boundaries properly, are those say yes people, right? People ask them out, they say, okay, I'll join this, I'll join that, but they forgot their own rest time. All right,
Mm.
so we have to exercise appropriate uh, quality rest time. Like so, things could be like sleeping. Are we sleeping enough? Are we having like at least 7 hours per night? Are we having playtime that we can spend with our kids or even for ourselves, where we can exercise our hobbies or interests, watching
Mm.
our favorite movies, reading a book, and something like that. Okay, so this is really, really important. Setting boundaries and exercising self-care. Situation number six. Let's go to the last one. And this is actually the most severe kind of situation. And what happened was this person thinks that the pandemic is not affecting them at all.
Oh,
They
wow.
say, I have no problem. Okay. And and what's even worse is that they give other people an impression that they are calm, right? Like
Yeah,
this guy,
okay.
this girl over here,
Mm, mm, mm.
and that actually attracted other people to ask them for help, to ask this guy for help,
Mm.
right? And what happened was this person will will give his or her own suggestions, but the
Mm.
suggestion is done in a forceful way. They use a lot of language, right? You must do this, you must do that. So
Ah.
it's kind of like an what you call an OCD approach, obsessive compulsive disorder, and have to follow them. So and what happened is the person receiving the suggestion will feel uncomfortable because
Mm.
it's like you're trying to make me do it your way,
Wow,
right?
but this is very hard to identify, isn't it?
Yes, yes. So I think
Very hard.
if that's you and you're listening to this webinar and you say, that sounds like me, I think that's a really good
Indicator.
reaction because at least you are being aware that you have
Mm.
such a compulsion, to uh, to try to dominate other people's behaviors and their thoughts. So and I think and actually what they are suggesting is not really helpful. It actually makes the situation even worse
Worse.
because maybe
Okay.
the person when they go to you, they are actually trying to find an outlet to express themselves. But instead of receiving an outlet to express, it's kind of like you're adding on emotions, right,
Mm.
to the emotional cup.
Mm.
Okay, so so I think uh, so I think this is twofold. If that's you, right, there's trying to, I mean maybe the um the motivation to help other people maybe is of a pure nature, but I
But.
think the technique of doing that wasn't that appropriate. Okay, so I will offer some recommendations, for this guy.
Mm.
But if on the other hand, if you are a person who is trying to seek help from this person, maybe try to look for help from other people. and not from this person, right? And
Okay.
and
But we do
sometimes they
not
don't
know,
even,
you know.
yeah,
How do we
exactly.
identify this? Yeah,
So
that's the
again,
problem.
it'll be really helpful if they are attending this webinar so that they'll be aware. They'll be
Of
aware.
course, if they are forcing us to, forcing me to do something, I will immediately, feel it. Then
Yes, yes,
I may retaliate, or I may just ignore him or
yeah,
her.
yeah.
Yeah, or
So
just say that,
maybe,
oh yeah.
yeah, so maybe ignoring is a way, to get out of the situation, right? But
Mm-hmm.
on the other hand, initially you're trying to release your emotion, but by ignoring that, I think there might be a chance that you also ignore the emotions that you were hoping that to be released. You know what I'm saying,
Mm-hmm. I
right?
see. Okay.
Yes. So I,
So
I think
ignore seems to be the solution.
ignore could be the partial solution, and
Partial.
and
Okay.
we should also try to find an outlet. We should also try to find an
Mm-hmm.
outlet, to release the emotions. All right. Now let's look
Mm-hmm.
at a recommendation for this guy. Right.
Come.
So what one is to try to look at things from the other person's perspective and try to
Mm-hmm.
understand what's the reason for their fear. Maybe the other person is just trying to, have a way to express. And in fact, if we just listen without any judgmental giving any judgmental advice, it might be even more helpful,
Yeah.
than
Mm.
you know to forcefully tell them to do this, to do that, right? Because as I mentioned, but if we forcefully help other people, we're not helping the other people to release their emotions. So
Mm.
one of the ways to help other people to release is maybe just listen and shut up. I mean, that's the best way if you don't know what to respond, right?
Yep.
um, but if you know how to respond, so what you can respond could be what we call empathy. And how
Mm.
empathy works is just to reflect. It's just to reflect what the other person is expressing. So maybe the other person say, "Oh, I'm so stressed at work. My boss treat me bad. I'm having a hard time. What should I do? So you'll be really prompted, to give your suggestion. Just quit your
Mm.
job. Duh, right?
Yeah.
uh, but
Yeah.
but but maybe it's not the right it's not the most appropriate way. But maybe the better
Mm.
way would be to simply be like a mirror. Just say, it seems like you're having a hard time at the workplace.
Okay.
You
So
s- you It
relate
sounds
to the
like,
situation.
yeah,
Mm.
you can use words like it sounds like you are stressed.
Mm.
Okay, just by doing this, you don't have to add any opinions, you don't have to add any suggestions. Okay,
Mm.
so in fact, by doing this, you're actually helping a lot, and that person actually feels really comfortable. Say, you're really understanding me, you're really listening to what I'm saying, and I feel much better
Mm.
just by talking to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
No, but you got to have friends. If you are in this situation, then you got to have friends that
Yes.
will have to
Yes.
do. I mean, friends will do this for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So counselors and psychologists, we are trained to do this, right?
I see.
So if you
Yeah.
don't have friends who are able to help you in such a way, so my advice is look for a counselor or a
Yep. Yep.
psychologist.
Yep.
All right, so that
Okay.
we can
Okay.
still keep our jobs.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Another point is try to appreciate and accept other people's negative emotions first.
Mm.
Okay. Again, if you are a person who are really prone to give advice a lot, maybe what you could do is try to show empathy first before you give the advice. Right.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Empathy is so important. Empathy is like it has to be so much, and advice should be much lesser.
Okay. Wait. Empathy means you relate to that
Empathy
person,
means
right?
you relate to that person in terms of what they've said,
Okay.
or to label their emotions.
Mm. Okay.
So how do you label emotions? You can use words like it sounds like.
I see. I see.
It
Okay.
sounds like you are having a hard time.
Yeah. For
It
this, I think I
sounds
need to
like
go for training.
yeah, you can have a private time with me as well.
Okay.
I will train you to be a
All
professional
right, man. You say it.
empathy empathy boss.
Okay. Okay.
Now, one of the ways to train up empathy is to go for more volunteer work.
Okay.
Okay, by going on more volunteer work, you can look at things from the other people's perspective.
Right. Makes sense.
Right.
Okay.
So
Mm.
again, it's the actually total opposite of situation number one. Situation number one, the person used a lot of their right mind, with the right brain,
Mm.
emotional part. But for situation number six, the person used too much of their logical mind. So that's why they say you must do this, you must do that. That doesn't sound logical. You have to do it that way, right? So it's all about a logical kind of language.
Yep,
But
yep.
on the other hand, they have to train out the emotions that, hey, this person is actually looking you for an outlet of their
Mm,
emotions. They don't want to look for advice. They just want an outlet for their
mm,
emotions.
mm.
Okay. So the principle number six we can draw out of this is to practice empathy.
Okay.
And one of the another way is we can exercise gratitude. Either way, whether you are the victim or whether you are the perpetrator, um, you can exercise gratitude. Now, what's gratitude? Gratitude could be write down the things that you appreciate. Maybe you can
Mm,
list out five things that you appreciate each day. It could be some task that has been done pretty smooth, or maybe someone is helping you to do something. You can write it down. All right, because when we show gratitude, research has shown that the person is happier when they are able to show gratitude. An attitude of gratitude leads to happiness.
mm,
All right,
mm.
so let me say that again. An attitude of gratitude leads to happiness. Okay, and
Okay.
um, and from a neuroscience standpoint, there's a brain in I mean there's a part of brain that has gratitude, and it's really close to the part that is to do with happiness.
Mm,
Okay, so that's why gratitude is can lead to happiness really really fast. Okay, and also gratitude is the easiest emotion we can we can initiate. All right, so highly
easiest to
advise.
initiate. Okay.
Yes, it is to initiate.
Okay.
So
Mm,
highly advise you guys, to have a gratitude diary. For me, I have a gratitude diary. Every day I try to write five things. It doesn't really matter. Sometimes you can repeat the same kind of. I mean, if it's something that seems to be repeated every day, just repeat that.
mm,
Right, just
mm,
repeat that. And
mm.
because also research has shown that even if you can't think of something that you are grateful for, the fact that you're doing this gratitude exercise makes you happier as well.
Wow. Wow.
So that's very powerful.
Mm, mm. And then it make you less stress and look
Exactly.
forward for your day, right? For the day.
Exactly. Okay. So maybe that could be the first 5 minutes as well. Do
Mm,
your gratitude diary. Or you can try to figure out like maybe two gratitude points. At the end of the day, you close your day with gratitude as well.
mm, mm.
Hmm.
So morning, 5 minutes before you sleep.
Morning 5 minutes and before you sleep 5 minutes.
Uh, there's this thing that I heard of. I'm not sure how true it is that whatever that you see or heard or learn the last
Hmm.
few minutes of your before you sleep, you will
Right.
actually cause you to think about it when you sleep, right?
That's that. Yeah. That. I've heard of this before, and it might be true as well. Yeah.
And then
Because
during your sleep, you become more stressed in certain cases. Yeah, that's why we have nightmare, right?
yeah, so it really depends on what you were thinking, what you're putting in your mind, right?
Mm,
As I say, your mind is like a computer. You put good stuff, good software, then
mm,
the program runs well. You put bad software or virus,
mm.
it will infect. And at the end of the day, maybe the entire computer will be infected with the virus.
Yep, yep, yep. Okay, okay. So if we can put on positive thinking, all right,
Yes.
at the end before you sleep. Yeah. Hey, but do
Yep.
you
That's a
think
great
that
point. Yep.
people who when they sleep they talk? What do you call it?
When you sleep, they talk.
Sleep
Uh,
talking, sleep
uh,
talking,
yeah, sleep talking. Yeah, I think there's a
something
good
like that.
term
Yeah.
for it. Sleep
So
talking. There's sleepwalking, sleep talking,
yeah,
or
sleep
sleep
talking.
shouting.
Is it a psychology issue when you sleep and talk?
I would say just a human reaction.
Okay, so it's not nothing to do
Yes,
with okay.
it's just a human reaction, and whether it's psychological, because again, we have to define what's psychological, because people have different definition of what's psychological, whether it's a problem or not a problem.
Yep, yep, yep.
So I would say that if depends on what they're talking about, right? If they're talking great things, meaningful things, positive things, then continue, right? They
Mm.
can continue to talk and laugh, when they're sleeping.
That's true. Okay, okay,
Yeah,
makes sense.
and I think that's also an indicator of whether the person is living a good life. So sometimes when you're hearing your partner what they're talking during their sleep time, take note of it.
So far, I'm the one who talk. You know,
So what did you talk about when you sleep?
I don't know.
You can ask your wife to
Yeah.
record it.
Maybe I should ask.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, is this the end or looking
Yep,
forward?
that's the end of my presentation. Let's see if you have any other
Wow.
questions.
Okay, I think it's really a very, very insightful session. Six principle, and all the principles are really things that we face daily, especially in our workplace.
That's
Okay,
right.
yeah. So very insightful. I'm not sure if anybody has any question. If you have any question, you can take this few minutes to ask us. We only have less than 5 minutes left.
Yep.
Yeah.
And allow me to show a commercial, yeah. So if you
Yeah.
guys are still listening to this webinar, go on to my website, dradrianlow.com, and you can download the psychological mask at my
Yes, I have
website.
it. I have it here.
Okay.
Yep, I have
Yep.
it here. Yep, over here. Okay, so first,
Cool. Cool. Yep.
please like this Facebook Live and go to our page, like our page, and also go to download www.dradrianlow.com/COVID-19 mask, and that's where you can actually get the what you call it
The
the
PDF
link.
version. Yeah.
No, yeah, but you have these steps, right, or some
Yeah.
stuff
That's right.
you
Yeah.
mentioned earlier. I forgot what's that. Sorry.
I forgot what I told you.
The relief thing, right? I mean, something that
The relief
the
thing.
steps
Right.
to yeah. Okay,
Mm,
yeah. So please, guys, go and download it. Put your email, okay? Whether you are watching right now live or we are watching it later. Go to this link, okay? dradrianlow.com/COVID-19 mask, and I believe that it's gonna help you, okay, in your workplace or in whatever situation that you are facing right now. Yep. So we do not have really much time now, okay? And I'm really grateful, Doctor. Very grateful that you have
thank you.
came on to our show. Lots of questions, even as you go through the six things, I'm thinking whether am I one of those that is affected. Yeah, I think I'm okay. I don't really control people around. So the last one should be okay. Okay. So
Mm.
if you're my friend and you're watching this and you find that well I'm really telling you a lot of things that I force you to do, please come and tell me. And you gotta show me empathy, right? Right or not? Empathy,
Yeah, you've learned a
help
lot.
me.
Wow, you're doing
Yeah.
great.
Yep. Okay. So I hope that the viewers, okay, you guys had a great time. All right. And if you have any questions, okay, do reach out to Dr. Adrian. Okay. He's a certified, okay, what do you call it, psychologist,
I'm a chartered
doctor,
psychologist, a
chartered
chartered
psychologist.
psychologist from the UK.
Okay. And also Hong Kong. You're the
Yep.
president.
And in Singapore, actually, I'm also a registered psychologist. In Singapore,
Yep.
registered with Singapore Psychological Society.
Powerful. Powerful. Nothing else to say really. Everything you say is okay. So thank you so much for your time, Doctor, today. And
Thank you for having me.
yeah,
I hope we
yep,
can have more, collaborations in the future.
definitely. So much to
Okay.
learn from you. Okay, I hope that you can give us more free stuff
Sure.
going forward. All right. So that's all for tonight. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. See you. Bye bye.
Bye.